And as you can hear, Oakwood has their keys out. Fisk continues to push on. And Sam says it's done.
Yep, it's done.
This game is sealed. Good strip.
Oakwood. I never understood just how unique it was until I was gone. Okay, let me give you a brief rundown. Dred Scott, one of the most famous slaves in U.S. history, was purchased by Peter Blow and taken to Huntsville, Alabama to work on a plantation. Long story short, the plantation sucked and, well, actually, all plantations sucked. Anyway, Peter Blow sold it and moved to St. Louis, and Dred Scott was sold once again. Well, that 380 acres of land that was once the plantation owned by Peter Blow and worked by the infamous Dred Scott is now Oakwood University. Well, let me back up. So, Ellen G. White, she was a prophet of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and she was white. No pun intended. But she wasn't your average 1800s white. She was woke white. Some people say she had black ancestors, but really, I don't know for sure. Either way, God told her there needed to be a school in the South for the freed slaves. So she was like, well, hey, what happened to that land Dred Scott and them used to be on? Well, in 1895, the Seventh-day Adventist Church bought it for $6,700. The next year, Oakwood Industrial School opened with 16 students, becoming the first and only Seventh-day Adventist HBCU. So, fast forward to today. The school is still the first and only Seventh-day Adventist HBCU. And after leaving the Oakwood bubble in 2014 and moving to Kentucky, I realized all the things I had taken for granted. I missed all the brown faces, and I had so many questions about why so many of us were willing to sacrifice so much to attend a small, seemingly unknown school in the Deep South that cost a fortune, mind you. All just to get a piece of what is referred to as the Oakwood experience. Well, here's what I found.
No meat on campus, no jewelry. You couldn't have a car your freshman year.
In Alabama, their legal age is 19, so you can turn 18 and rejoice all you want.
But at
Oakwood, you had to wait another year in order to be treated like an adult.
Couldn't have a TV.
You couldn't have a TV. You couldn't leave campus. You had to get your RA or dean to approve your leave.
If you leave campus for the weekend. So if there's gonna be a night where your RA is gonna come around and they're doing check and you're not gonna be there, you have to have a leave. If you don't have a leave, then you get a fine. And especially if you're not there at all, like they don't see you at all, you get an AWOL. Right. And that's worth $150.
Coming back, you had to be back in your dorm by 11 o'clock.
Curfew being at 12 during the weeks, 1 during the weekends.
Of course, during the week, you had to be there a little early to get ready to go to class.
It's 11:30 Friday night, because gotta be in for Jesus.
I mean, who really follows the rules in college?
Well, there was just about 300 students on the campus. Now, there are, over 1,000 or so. When we came to Oakwood, we had to work manually every day for a minimum of 2 hours. Okay, hitching the mule to the wagons and going up in the mountain and breaking rock and bringing it down to put in the potholes on the road and so forth. So you worked. And on the weekend, you worked 4 hours. You only made, for example, the hourly rate was, when I was here, now before I came, it was less. But when I came, the hourly rate was 27 cents an hour.
Wow.
And the top wage was 35.
Wow. And what job paid 35? Do you know?
Well, if your supervisor felt that you were very good, he would probably make you a foreman or something, and they could elevate you to 35 cents an hour.
Going to Oakwood is just so many Black young people all together in one place. That was amazing. Yeah, of course. Of course, not gonna be like too much of a shock for me because, of course, I'm from Africa and there's more African with Blackness there than, although, I would let everybody know that Africa is not all Black. So, yeah.
It was 1945.
Okay.
And when you came to Huntsville, segregation was in high gear. When we landed when the train came into the station on Church Street, we saw sign colored waiting room, white waiting room, colored drinking fountain, white drinking fountain, and so forth. You couldn't eat in the cafeterias. You couldn't eat in the restaurants. You had to go to the back door.
WCDX News, honoring Black history with this moment of hidden history.
56 years ago, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. But what you may not know is he gave a very similar speech at Oakwood University in Huntsville.
Our Rebecca Petit sat down with a former Oakwood student who was fortunate enough to see and hear the civil rights icon in person.
Coming south was a magnificent experiment.
Dr. Tim McDonald moved to Huntsville from Pennsylvania in 1958 to attend what was then called Oakwood College.
I'd never been south before. I'd heard many stories about the South, many scary stories for African Americans, or colored people as we were called back then.
At that time, the civil rights movement was just gaining momentum.
Still in its infancy, even though the sit-ins had happened, and we got word that many of our brothers and sister students from Alabama A&M were sitting in to lunch counters and theaters and restaurants across the city. We weren't allowed to do it. And Oakwood in those days was very, as I said, conservative.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to Huntsville, Alabama. He spoke to a packed house here at the gymnasium on Oakwood University's campus. The venue was the only place in town that would allow Dr. King to come and preach his message of civil rights. Dr. Mervyn Warren was front and center nearly 50 years ago when his hero, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., spoke at Oakwood University. Warren now teaches religion at the school. He still has an autographed copy of the program signed by King.
That is an heirloom. That's something that is so historical, and it is so important that it means forever. The name of Dr. Martin Luther King and Oakwood University will forever be married together.
Warren has a vintage recording of the 1962 Oakwood speech that is very similar to King's D.C. speech.
From every mountainside let freedom ring, and so let it ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let it ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let it ring from every hill and molehill of Alabama.
Dr. Warren says King's visit and life has influenced him greatly. He earned his bachelor's from Oakwood, then earned 2 master's degrees and 2 doctorate degrees.
While attending Oakwood, I took for granted the opportunity to go to school around all Black people. However, since I have been out of Oakwood, I have seen the importance of supporting and preserving the sacred space that is an HBCU.
I wasn't seen as somebody who was gonna go to college. Like, my family was ecstatic that I graduated high school. It was like, great, we got this boy out of high school, good. And that was it. So the only reason I'm sitting here 1 month away from graduating with a PhD was because of Oakwood. Like, that idea would have never crossed my mind had I not gone to an HBCU, because I didn't see black doctor. Like, I just didn't see that.
The rest of your life, you're going to have to work, live, and try to thrive in a white America.
It was a wild school. It was too secular. It was basically, they made it sound like an evil place, and that's within the Adventist realm. Outside of the Adventist realm, it was just like, oh, it's a failure because it's black, and that's the honest truth. There was no other reason. Nobody ever had a reason why the school was bad. It was just a black school.
They have something at Oakwood. There's one specific chapel that they have where all of the professors walk in their regalia with their robes and stuff like that. And so I remember being at chapel, and I remember sitting there with my hoodie on, like, I'm so sleepy, I don't want to be here. And I remember seeing all those professors walk in with these fancy doctoral robes, and they all black. Like, they're all black, and they're like doctorate from Spain and Portugal and Harvard and Andrews and wherever. And I'm just like, and I just remember seeing that, and I'm like, that was so inspiring to me. Like, that was the first time I ever seen it. And I'm like 19, 20 years old. Never seen anything like that before. And that was the first time I said to myself, yo, I could do this too. Like, what makes them any different from me? You know what I'm saying?
Let's just say, for my first day here, I'm not happy at all. Oakwood, the AC did not work this last night, and it was horrible, you know. As black men, we need a nice cool room to sleep in just so we can go to sleep. And it was just too hot. I pretty much had to crawl right here and just sleep all the way in front of the fan, like my whole body just on that pillow. Sad. But I'm gonna get ready to get started, get dressed, head to this orientation, and I'll be back and let y'all know more later.
Registration. Ooh, boy.
Our registration and clearance process is, I guess it is a little different, being that it is a private school.
Registration at Oakwood at the time was not so great in the sense that it took a long time.
Well, I was different as a student because I'm from here, so I did everything in the summer when no one was here. But the students that were there, you had to go to the skating rink. That was registration central.
The skating rink is the place where we skate. And there would be, it felt like a big convention. Like, I don't know, Marriott Hotel Von Braun Center convention, where you have all these vendors. It felt like vendors all the way around the skating rink, and lines of people.
There was a financial aid line, housing line if you needed to fix your room, which, you know, what are you gonna do as far as your meal plan, your room, your ID card once you did get cleared.
Getting in that line and waiting in line.
Hours.
For days.
Days. Months. No.
Did we have to take a number? No. We just had to wait in line. Just wait in line all day. And then you would come the next day and wait in line again. You had to wake up early. I mean, that was it every semester.
Once you register, you had to get a lot of signatures.
You have all your classes, but you cannot pay by the third day of registration, so all your classes just disappear. They just vanish from your schedule.
Don't get it twisted. Those are usually the students who came to the school, have not done their FAFSA. They haven't registered for their classes. They hadn't done anything so they wouldn't have to stand in line. But it's rarely the people who took care of everything and then something just happened and it disappeared.
So basically, and all the signatures were not all in one place, so you had to go from one building to the next building.
And you gotta walk like, a mile, just about a mile or a quarter of a mile or half a mile between. You gotta get a signature from this teacher. The class is full, so you gotta get a signature from the teacher teaching the class so you can get in.
And you would think that this is the last signature I'm getting. It's like, oh, you still have to get to this so and so before you go to Mr. Brathwaite.
So when you didn't have enough money to register, because you needed 70% at least, you go into this line that Mr. Brathwaite not controls, but that's the line to get to his office. And he was the man. If he says yeah, you live. If he says nay, you die.
It's like an interrogation room when you go in there with Mr. Brathwaite, because it's just you and him, and you close the door behind you, and he'll be like, how can I help you today? And I wanted to be like, well, you know why I'm here. Obviously, I'm trying to get in school. And so he'll ask you questions like, well, how are you gonna pay this? If I do this, how are you gonna pay this? Then I remember you having to go and to one of the phones and call your mom and dad and be like, I need to fax this loan paper to you. Could you put your signature on it and fax it back? Brathwaite was like the gatekeeper, so to speak. He was like the Oz and the Wizard of Oz. Like, he's the wizard. Like, you need to go see the wizard. You go behind that curtain and you come back from behind that curtain, and you know, you like, and it was so perfect what you said was, you would see the facial expressions and the body language of the people before you. Well, maybe if they get good news, I get good news. But it wasn't like that for everybody.
August is fine. You warm, you walk, you sweating.
Yeah.
But January 7th, or January 9th.
January 9th.
7th is the Monday, the 9th is always the Wednesday, and you just they're freezing, walking back and forth.
I absolutely think that whole process added to the Oakwood experience.
The process did make the experience more enjoyable because you got to meet a lot of new people.
You're hanging out with your friends, making new friends in line. I have friends who have met their roommates or their spouses in line at registration, so it's not all bad.
They were improving little by little, and eventually you were able to register online.
One thing I would say about all of that runaround that we had to go through was that at the end of the day, you got in school.
What's up, y'all? Hey, how y'all doing? We back again. This is my roommate right there, KD. Freshman too. We both came from my dad's home church. Right now, what we got going on is, as you can see, we just still trying to rearrange rooms, second day on campus. We just kind of bored, tired of walking, you know. So we just thought we'll use this time to do what we should have did yesterday. So the process right now is looking kind of crazy. You can tell there's stuff everywhere. Lots of shoes and stuff. We still need to go shopping. We're hungry, and yeah.
That cafeteria food, man.
Yeah, let's not even get started on that. That cat food is something else.
Hey, at least we got our outfits.
We gonna talking about a freshman 15. We gonna lose 15 pounds. Crazy. They ain't got no type of meat. So I guess me and Katie gonna be some vegans by the time we leave here. Ain't that right, Katie?
I ain't gonna be no vegan. I don't know what you talking about.
All right, but I'll get back to y'all later on. I'm gonna try to finish this room and peace out.
So I began my journey in 1973 as a freshman. I stayed until 74. I left because of financial situations, and then I went back in 75 and I did another quarter because we were on the quarter system then. So I was hemmed and hawed by what I wanted to do career-wise. I went there to study nursing. I wanted to be a nurse. So I couldn't finish because of, financial circumstances.
Because we are tuition-based, we operate out of our tuition, we have to have it up front.
So why didn't you use them? I think it was a money issue. Private school, you need money in hand kind of situation.
So a lot of students use federal funding for that, scholarships, grants, things like that. But there is still a portion that most students will have to come up with at some point during the registration process. We try to make them aware of that early enough just so they can make arrangements. But of course, we still have students who struggle, but they're not just kicked to the curb.
I didn't have financial aid because I was a foreign student. So it was not easy for us to get, scholarships.
For me, coming to Oakwood, of course, will be a difficulty because coming to any school, because school is expensive. But I'm from Bermuda, so I don't have access to financial aid or FAFSA. So any money that was supporting me through school was solely coming from my parents, anyone at home. Thankfully, I was able to get some scholarships from home, so that helped a big bit, a huge bit, and I'm grateful that I was able to be a good student to be able to award it.
The thing is, if you can't afford, if you're not good enough, most likely your parents will say you can go to this community school where we live in Connecticut, wherever you are.
That's true.
But if you're good, your pastor at your church will tell the board, well, let's sponsor little Johnny over here because he's very good in science and we're an Adventist church and there's this school for him and they will take care of him. Because pastors would always give you these testimonies, oh, we sent our kids over there because we knew that was the place to send them. They didn't know anything else, but they knew that this school over there in Huntsville, Alabama, in the country, would have everything for that kid to grow. And then same thing for Caribbeans, because to get here, you gotta struggle and pay.
Are there many Caribbean students here?
A lot of them. A lot. Literally, most of the Caribbeans in the Huntsville population come from Oakwood. I'm convinced. Very convinced. And you don't even really have to be from an island. I was born in Barbados, but there's Americans here whose parents are, from all over Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Lucia. They're from all over here, so.
Same thing for France, same thing for England, because now we have a lot of British students. So you get an influx of almost like, I want to say, the top tier of elite.
In 2000, when I was here as a freshman, tuition was about $5,200, and now it's $9,300 semester. As far as SDA colleges are concerned, Oakwood is the lowest, actually, when it comes to tuition. I think that part of it is because they are offering more. It wasn't university status when I was here as a freshman. Now it is. Also, inflation, just that. And then the recession affected a lot of universities and especially HBCUs, and we are one of the HBCUs that was greatly affected by that. Our enrollment went down, so tuition had to be increased just to cover the cost of doing business.
With all the scholarship that they provide in the long registration process, they made sure that you had scholarship that made it possible for you to get in school, even before the Stafford loans were applied and everything.
I think it's priced pretty fairly, but I think there are ways that we can offset those prices, I think, a little better. We have to compete with schools who offer full ride scholarships for students. We had a student who had 4 off full rides from other universities, but she wanted to come here. So she called and tried to work it out, but there wasn't anything to do because we don't offer a full ride. So I think just getting more funding, increasing donations to the school, I think would definitely help us to offer full rides for students with 4.0, 5.0, which I don't even understand, GPAs.
Initially, I didn't want to go to Oakwood. It was my church had college days that they would do every year. So first time I went to college days, I was like, I'm not really feeling this school. Then the second time I went, I was like, oh, this is it's kind of, I had a lot more fun that time. And for some reason, I think that was my freshman year of college, senior year of high school, freshman year of college, because I started out as a sophomore at Oakwood. I went to the community college first after high school. And I just remember I got a 75% paid scholarship to a school in Florida, University of South Florida. And I was gonna go, and my parents was like, all right, cool, you got scholarship money, yeah. But something was pulling me here. I don't know, and I prayed about it, I really did. And I felt like God was telling me to come here. I know that's real cliche, I know it is, but that's the honest truth for me. And if you know anything about me, I'm far from cliche. So if I give you a cliche answer, it's real. So I really did just kind of feel called to be here. And it was a great decision.
When I joined the church in 1964, I was 13 years old, and people were talking about this college, Oakwood College, and it was the Black Seventh-day Adventist College. So from other people's experiences, spiritually, mentally, physically, I wanted to attend that college also.
A lot of the parents that sacrificed for their children to come to this particular institution are Black Adventists, and Oakwood is unique in that it's the only Black Adventist HBCU. Well, Adventist HBCU. So they want them to have that experience, the experience of HBCU, but also in a Christian environment.
My sister went to Oakwood. She studied social work here. And because I went to an academy in Bermuda, I already knew what Oakwood was. I knew all about the singing, what type of atmosphere Oakwood was. So I already had a good idea of what I was getting myself into.
I first went to Oakwood for college days in 2002, October of 2002. College days was wonderful. I enjoyed it so much. I met a lot of people, a lot of wonderful friends there, and it was very, very friendly. And that, that caught my attention about Oakwood.
Oakwood, to me, I think Oakwood's the best Adventist school. Probably because it's an HBCU too at the same time. But Oakwood, they're known for a lot of things like their basketball program, music.
Well, all of my family, number one, in the church, the pastors graduated from Oakwood. They talked about Oakwood. My cousins attended Oakwood. But it's known everywhere for the music, for the preaching, and now for everything else. Because Oakwood is not just a school for theology or music. It's also a school in terms of social work, outstanding business education, you name it, and even in media now.
The nursing program was what drew me here.
I chose to go to Oakwood because initially, I wanted to attend a HBCU, a historically Black college, and my grandparents met at Oakwood. And so that kind of persuaded my decision to attend Oakwood, and my father attended as well as my cousins and some of my aunts and uncles.
Like, I had no choice. It was pick an Adventist institution that you were going to school to, where you wanted to go. Now, Oakwood was not initially my first choice. And that's because I'm the type of person, I'm going to go where I have family or it's just some familiarity. So Oakwood wasn't necessarily my first choice. But I will say coming to Oakwood has taught me a lot. It's taken a while. It exceeded my expectations.
Honestly, I initially wanted to go to Southern University. And I just wanted to get away from home.
In my family, I think it was just a natural progression. We knew that we went to the Child Development Lab, then we went to the elementary, then we went to the middle school, then the high school, then the college. And so it wasn't anything that I didn't expect anything else, and I already knew what was here because this was home. I grew up on this campus.
Honestly, it's not that I chose it, just that it just happened. It was just one of the things in life that y'all really just couldn't control. I wanted to go to different colleges, just explore, but just the same story that everybody else here at Oakwood has. It just happened. I guess it's just a place that God wanted me to be.
People call me Lou. That's my nickname for Laurent Daniel Verniac. I'm from Paris, France. I was born in 1978. In Paris, the 14th district of Paris. When I got here in January 1999, there was a big snowstorm. So my parents drugged me and left, almost, because they had to fly back home. They couldn't miss the flight. I was in a hotel and I was checking out. It was like a Motel 6 or something like that. I called a cab and there was ice all over Adventist Boulevard. There was snow and ice. And the cab driver tried to make it. And then I had to register. I had to find the dorm. I had to find where the dorm was, how to register and all this. But it was snow everywhere. I mean, it was like 2-3 feet of snow. January 1999 was really bad. I mean, I grew up in France. It's bad. But on campus, it felt like people could not move, car was skidding around and all that. And I found a guy who had a Jeep Cherokee, 4-wheel drive. And he said, well, I can help you. And he was he was a junior at the time, senior, because he was just there one more semester, that semester, and then he disappeared. His name was Bobby. And he helped my parents catch their plane back. He drove them to Birmingham, which was great. I remember him, I remember his truck. And he said, man, let me help you, because we really didn't know. So first, my English is good to me. But when you add the American twang and the Southern twang, and then when I speak English with my French accent and nobody understands, and it's, and at Oakwood, you always find these people who look and it's like they want to help.
I went to Lake Erie trying to learn how to swim. Someone who was very influential in my life made a joke of it. He said, if you want to learn how to swim, just jump in the water and nature will take over. Well, the person was kidding. He didn't think anybody would even believe that. But when you have influence in people's lives, you have to be careful about everything that you say. So I didn't go to a swimming pool. I went to the lake. And I went down there by myself, and I was going to jump in, but I fell in, and I couldn't touch the bottom. And I went down, and I came up. And I went down and came up. All my sins passed before me, and I knew that I was going to drown. So I heard a voice. There were two men sitting on the rock up there. And one said, that boy can't swim. And both of the men jumped in the water and pulled me out. One man was black, the other was white. And they said, why are you here? I told them. They said, the next time you want to learn how to swim, don't jump in the water 16 feet deep. So I went back home, didn't tell my mother what I had been through, but I went back home. And that Sabbath, one Sabbath shortly thereafter, Elder Willis told the story. He said, when you turn your back on Jesus Christ, it's like spitting in the face of someone who just saved you from drowning. Well, immediately, I realized I'd almost drowned. And I wouldn't dare react that way to those men. And it was that day that I made my decision to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And so that's how I began, and he later on baptized me. But there was another minister who was very influential in my life. He was our pastor for almost 10 years, Elder J.H. Lawrence. And so when he saw us out in the yard playing, he would always ask all of us, what are you going to be one day? If you hesitated, he would say, you ought to be a minister then, So quite a few of us went that way, but I was already geared to be a pastor. I wanted to care about people like Elder Willis had cared about me and so many others.
I became a Christian at 11. I saw a group of people that was in Sudan before I moved into the refugee camp. They were marching and it was in Christmas time. They were marching, they had a marching band. So we were singing in my language, in Dinka. And so that attracted my attention. Just the music alone attracted my attention. But even more that singing in my language, I understood what they were singing. I followed them to church. I came to church, I entered the cathedral. It was huge with sculptures, of Jesus on the cross, of Mary with a child, and whatnot. And I see people like bowing or making a sign of the cross and whatnot. And as I was looking at the sculptures and just wondering what it meant, what they all meant, somebody recognized me that I didn't know who they were. It was like, whoa, what are you doing here? It's like, I just came here. So they're like, okay, we would like to invite you to come here more often. Come on Wednesdays, we have catechism class. So I was invited, so I was like, okay, sure, why not? So every Wednesday I would go to church. But then the city that I was in was later captured. That made us to flee into Kenya. So we fled into Kenya and became a refugee. Then I continued going to church there and was baptized, was confirmed. Catholic Church, they have those the steps in there. And then continued my education more in Kenya there. Well, I actually was a refugee in Kenya for 9 years. I became a Seventh-day Adventist Seventh-day Adventist in the refugee camp in Kenya. The name of the refugee camp is called Kakuma Refugee Camp. The first time I heard about Oakwood was when NAPS came to South Sudan. When NAPS came to Sudan in '98, they passed through Kenya, and that's the first time I learned about Oakwood.
Did you remember once you got to Colorado, that's the same group?
Actually, I had, it was mentioned to me, but it didn't click until I went for college days to Oakwood. Then I met Dr. Anthony Paul, and that's when it clicked to me. It's like, wow, what are the chances of knowing a group that went to Sudan, and then coming to the school where the group was formed. One thing I would say about that is that I became a part of NAPS.
No, I've always believed in God. I've always believed in God. I believed in God, but I could say that I may not have had the best faith.
Yeah.
But I knew that I've seen God do stuff in other people's lives, and I know He would do it for me as well. But oftentimes, I just lack faith.
I know He exists, for sure. And I know that He is responsible for a lot of the good things that happen in my life. So I've never not believed in Him, but there have been times where my faith was little or I doubted Him.
There were times I really thought, like, how am I able to make it through here? There were times I really didn't see past a semester, but God saw me through. And I saw some of my friends who came to school with nothing, literally nothing.
Many times I've seen God work miracles for different people. I mean, it's hard to pick one, but I mean, extraordinary stories where we have a lot of international students, so they don't get state funding or federal funding from the United States. And a lot of times their countries won't give them money either to come, so they literally start at zero. And just people calling in to make a last minute $8,000 donation on someone's account that they don't even know. Like, I remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, this girl had a situation like that where her father, got injured on his job. and her mother had to quit her job to take care of him. So they didn't really have any money, but I remember sitting in the office a week before graduation, and it finally worked out for her. And I was like, there was not a dry eye in the place. The vice president of financial affairs was there. The director of student accounts was there. I was there. So it was like a lot of different levels of faculty, staff here. And I mean, in the office working for her. And God worked it out, and we were all crying when she finally got that signature saying she was going to graduate. So countless stories like that. You have students come here whose parents have abandoned them because they're coming to Oakwood, or the few Caucasian students that we have come here, you know, their parents weren't supporting them coming to some random black school in the South. So I've seen God work in many ways, many different ways.
Chapel and getting your worship credits is just making sure that they can keep you grounded in a faith. Because when you come here, yes, there's freedom, but it's also letting students know that at the end of the day, you're also here to grow your spiritual connection with God. So this is something that you need to do.
I also learned that spirituality is not just something that you practice by yourself. It's something that you learn as you come in contact with other people.
You know, there's always this person who comes and says, do you need help with this? And it's always students. So students always helping students. This is the only campus that know, I mean, church is supposed to be like that, but on the campus, you had an issue, I come and talk to you, and you say, well, do you want to pray about it? Let's pray about it. I'd never seen that before. Never, ever. And up to this day, that happens. I mean, I saw it like last month. And I realized 2 students just started to say, oh, this is what you're going to do. Well, let's pray. And I said, well, let me pray with you too. I'm just there. Let's do it. More people, more prayer, more power.
I remember seeing circles of people praying around the bell tower. There was always people praying. You know what I mean? If we didn't do anything every day, it was that we were going to pray every day. We prayed before every class started. We prayed before every practice started. We prayed after a lot of things.
Basketball games and the basketball games.
Exactly. And so prayer became just an everyday part of your life. You know what I mean? And people would sing their grace in the cafeteria. Everybody stopped what they were doing and prayed before they ate. You know, I mean, it was just normal for people to just pray.
Before Oakwood, how was my relationship with God? Honestly, before I went to Oakwood, I really didn't care too much of God. I really didn't care too much for church or anything like that. I was just pretty much doing my own thing. I would say, well, what happened? I was going through the motions, just pretty much doing me, living my best life. But I think it was the day of trials. It was the day of trials of basketball. And I was playing over the gym before. I should. Some told me not to go, some told me not to go. But I was playing, and there would be some players, and we actually ran into each other. And when we ran into each other, I had hurt my knee. Somehow we had both knees real bad. I could just go walk. It was like swole. I had to get carried back to the room. So my friends carried me back. And I was on the bed wow, I'm not going to get a try. I'm not going to get a try out. And then I went to one of my friends' room. He was in the trial too. He told me to come in here. Because I was mad. Because he was trying to just talk to me and lift me up. And then his roommate was a theology major. And then he was like, what happened? Confused. I was just talking laughing. I was just sitting there. I was just mad. He was like, what happened? And I just told him what happened. And he looked at my knee and everything. He was like, oh, that's bad. That's bad. He actually did till I prayed. So I was like, I really don't do that. I don't care about it. And he was like, I want you to just go back to your room. I want you to pray. And after that, he was like, I want you to take a hot shower. And then he was like, in the prayer room, he was saying, just ask God to heal you. But if you heal him, if he heal me, then I have to try to get a relationship with him and start praying more and things like that. So long story short, I prayed, got in the shower, prayed again. And I just remember saying, so I was sitting down in the shower. And I remember standing up, and it didn't hurt to stand up. So I was like, that's crazy. So I started walking around the room, and it didn't hurt. I started trying to squat, it didn't hurt. I started jumping, it didn't hurt. So I went back to his room. I was like, dang, that's crazy. I can move, I can play, I can try out. And pretty much a lot of the boys in the door knew what happened. So when they saw me try out, it's Ryan ain't playing. And it's like, dang, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That was a real miracle. So I think that was one of the moments that actually changed my perspective with God, my relationship with God. So I was like, or maybe he took care, maybe he had heard things like that. Because I always heard the stories that he had do for other people, but I never really encountered anything for myself.
I don't know how to say. There was a little part of me always growing up that made me feel different, but at the same time, I was fine. But I didn't have time to feel left out at A&M because I was immediately pulled in to the community.
I had good rapport with everyone at Oakwood. You know, everywhere I went, you know, I had friends.
So when I first got to campus, I got dropped off. It was like end of July. It was early August or mid-August, something like that. I can't remember. Mid-August, got dropped off here. I put my stuff away. My parents, my sister put my stuff in the dorm. I saw my roommate, and it was this dude with a fade, like a high top fade, and I was like, "Don't nobody wear those no more." Like it's 2003. This is not a house party. And so I just remember thinking that to myself. Anyway, he ended up being a really good friend of mine. Even to this day, I talked to him like a couple months ago. So he's a really good friend of mine.
Oakwood was the friendliest place that I had ever been to.
Nursing, believe it or not. We was taking the general classes for nursing together, and we've actually been friends since freshman year. Actually, a group of us. A lot of us started as nursing. I'm the only one hanging on strong. But we all started off in nursing classes, and we've been friends ever since.
I've always wanted to come back to Oakwood. I love Oakwood, maybe not, but I love Oakwood, and I love what it represents. And like others, I've made friends for life, and friends I hadn't seen in 20, 30 years. It's like when I came back in 2004, it's like picking up where I left off.
We came here to Oakwood when David was 6 months old. And I went out on campus. I left David in the dorm with his dad. And when I got, it was in May. Late May, right after graduation. And so I looked out the window and I saw this lady with a little boy and a girl.
I met her here on Oakwood campus.
So I asked her how old the little boy was, and she said, "He's not mine." She said, "It's a friend's little boy. I brought him because she knows him and they could play a while together."
My daughter was a baby in her stroller.
And so I told my husband, I'm going out here and speak to this lady.
She's a very friendly person, very outgoing.
We were in the front of the building. We were in Cunningham Hall.
We had a lot in common. We were both new in Adventist organization.
And I told her I wanted to give my baby a bath. I said, but I want to bathe him in these face bowls because they're not sanitized.
I can remember she went to buy her baby a snowsuit. And when she came back, she had two. One for him that year, one for him the next year. So she gave me the one for the next year.
She said, come to my house and bathe your baby. I said, where do you live? She said, right down there. I don't think you even remember that building because they tore it down.
But anyway, when she would come to Huntsville, they would stay with us. And during the summer, I found out she and a little boy were here in summer school, living in a dormitory. I said, come and live with us. And they came.
And I would go to her house and put David to bed. Brenda was born.
And during alumni weekend years later, they would stay with us, just like a sister.
Yes, that was her idea. Let's be sisters. I thought that'll be good.
And on one occasion, my family and I decided to spend the Christmas in Orlando, Florida. Donella lived in Tampa at that time. And during to stay. Of course, we made contact. She said, I'd like for you and your family to come to dinner for Christmas with us at my son's house. So I told her, I said, would you like for me to bring some dishes? She said, no, just come. I said, there are 15 of us. She said, that's all right. She said, come on.
So we've never not known where the other one is.
You and Annelle have been friends ever since then.
Ever since then.
And she's 98 now?
Yeah.
And you're 95.
She'll be 99 in September.
And you'll be 96 in October.
Whenever you're lonely, just pick up the phone and call.
I feel like the friends I have, I'll have past Oakwood, which is great, because we have great memories. You meet people here, and I feel like you meet friends here, and they are for a lifetime. I believe that. My freshman year, we started out as a group of us, Carlisa. It changed from freshman year, where we was always together. Sophomore, junior year, kind of faded, but senior year, I don't know what happened.
Last year, that's when we started coming back together. And then now this year, it's just us. It's just against the world.
Whatever tomorrow may hold, I know.
When you have to work, when the Sabbath comes, you are not bored. You are happy to go and rest. And that's what made AYS famous.
Everybody was out there for AYS.
There are people who don't even attend Oakwood who go
come to
AY.
AYS was the high point of the whole week.
AYS was definitely a part of our ritual thing.
Getting out their stress that they have accumulated throughout the week.
It's a time where everyone can come together, we can sing, especially making it through a long week.
Mm-hmm. Right now, there really is no extracurricular. It's just me. I practice with the basketball team sometimes, but other than that, it's just work and schoolwork.
It feels amazing to just have a time where you can just thank God for bringing you through the week and to thank Him in advance for keeping you, safe.
And you with like-minded people, so it makes it much more comfortable.
I really love AYS because it was the time to praise the Lord as a community,
And there's nothing to unite people in their lives like singing together.
They have song service, they have spoken word, whether it's a sermon or a poem or someone does a meditation. People do special music.
AY service on Friday night was a time where you would hear new singers. If you were a singer, you had to be there and show up and do something,
It doesn't always have to be singing. They play instruments.
And they also collect money for outside charities. I know this year they have a scholarship for students, and that comes solely from the tithes and offering, or the offering at AYS.
We didn't have any drums, we didn't have any keyboards. We had a little piano, not much piano. Mainly it was a cappella.
We have Caribbean night, so most of the songs are Caribbean inspired.
Mind you, for me, when I first experienced AYS, I didn't kind of like it. I didn't like it because the music was not what I was, brought up with. So I brought my messages to young people to AYS. Okay, somebody might have seen me, but I was in AYS sitting down, everybody standing up, reading my message to young people, okay? But the noise didn't do anything to me because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the songs that were being sung and everything. I didn't know them, but my focus was reading my message to young people. So I was reading it, and before I knew it, I joined in, and I had a great time. But that was my first year. Second year, I didn't bring my message to young people to AYS anymore. I was there, like, you know, singing along, bye and bye. You know, I was into it.
Oakwood sent out musical organizations to help recruit students. So when people came, many of them came with the idea that music had attracted them to Oakwood.
I think the first thing I think that stands out to me is of that, you know, I can attribute to my Oakwood experience was probably joining Dynamic Praise, world-renowned gospel choir.
I heard about music at Oakwood and that it was really good.
Of course, Oakwood College at the time was a wonderful experience. The music was the choirs. I mean, we were in the Oakwood Church Youth Choir, and they were great. And they were just kids.
My cousin Robert Jackson was a tremendous bass singer. He sang with the Alabama Singers here at Oakwood. My cousin, Miss Sister Elizabeth Jackson at that time, was a tremendous soprano. She sang the Italian street song, all of those high numbers. So they both sang. Music was just a part of the family. And they came to Oakwood.
Some want the crown, but they won't bear their cross. It takes everything to serve the Lord.
It takes your hands and your head and your heart. Yes, it takes all. It takes full surrender to serve the Lord.
I think that it's interesting how many musicians come out of Oakwood. They have a different anointing on them.
Raise your hand if you have been the vocal coach for Jennifer Lopez. Raise your hand if you have been the vocal coach for Selena Gomez. Raise a little bit high. JoJo, Fergie, Lenny Kravitz, Amber Riley, Kelly Rowland, Maroon 5. I'm gonna put the card down. Just go to Spotify, type in the letter A. Anybody who come up, he done did. Stevie Mackey.
America's most promising young artist, Shalea. And joining her, Arturo Sandoval.
Knowing I love you so. Just that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free.
Welcome to the desk, Eric Bluetooth Griggs.
Thank you very much.
How are you,
Honored
man?
to be here.
You do this long curve, and you actually have the big hit. So let's start at the beginning of the arc.
I went to Huntsville, Alabama to go to school at a college called Oakwood College, and then I stayed there for about 9
I think that's
years.
where Brian went to school.
Brian McKnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed. Side pieces where you at.
When the credits roll on Dreamgirls, right? I'm playing everything but the drums. Eventually, I ended up being there, you know, at the Underdogs, which is where I did No Air.
No Air was in what year?
And was the biggest record in the world in 2008.
As far as musicians, you had Justin Wilson, Miss Jimmy Wilson's son. They were always showing little things, you know, in passing.
The group that has won the cash prize, the Sony Music recording contract, and the title of Sing-Off Champion is Committed!
Oakwood, all their groups have their own sounds, and they are really confident about their sound because you gotta be ready and be good, because otherwise they'll shoot you out.
I tried to avoid this video, but y'all will not stop sending it to me. Vashawn, I hate it had to be you.
Ready? Put me in C real quick. For your glory, I will do anything.
But the funny thing is the reactions of the people behind him.
I will do anything.
The thing is, man, everybody's face was like, hold on now, what happened?
I love to see the celebrities that have the opportunity to come to Oakwood: Yolanda Adams, Kurt Franklin, Donnie McClurkin, Vashawn Mitchell, and they hear, you know, individuals just singing in the congregation, and they're just blown away.
Wait. Hold on. I gotta say something real quick. When I was 20 years old, I was homeless. Well, I was 18 years old, and I met a guy by the name of Gerald Wright. And he was Seventh-day Adventist. I'd never heard of what the Seventh-day Adventist faith was, but I was homeless. And Gerald and his wife let me come live with them because I had I was broke, homeless. I had like a 1-year-old son, and I just had a dream. That's all I had. I had no money, I had nothing, I had no hopes, I had no possibilities. But listening to that sound, all it made me do was think of him because it's so heavenly.
Y'all got it up here. Tell somebody, never ever give up on God.
Many people in the Adventist church sing, even though they don't profess to be great singers. But singing is a part of the Adventist heritage.
People are like, can you sing? And my answer is, yeah, I went to Oakwood.
They come from all over campus.
Yeah.
You could be an education major and be hitting the same notes that an alien can hit. So
Every time I go to a place and they hear about Oakwood, they want me to go up there and sing or preach, you know. So I'm like, I'm not a singer, you know.
everyone is not meant to sing in solos. But if you can hit it, you can catch a tune, you can
hit a note.
You can swift along with the song, you know.
AY, you better be good. Church service, you better be good. It was always that caliber of things. To me, it was just so brand new.
Many of them come in, and sometimes you come thinking that you're an outstanding singer until you come here and you'll meet others that you won't even want to carry a tune. You know, so it pays to come here very humble, you know.
I'm back with you again. I was gonna do one early this morning, but I couldn't because my roommate was still asleep. I didn't want to wake him up, you know. That's one prices you pay when you have a roommate. But today's been a pretty good day. So far, we went to our consecration, freshman consecration, our practice. We went in there, just practiced that. We stayed in there for a long time, at least a couple hours. At least it felt like it. I tried to leave, but you know, it's Oakwood, so somebody ran and caught me at the door, so I had to come back.
The city of Huntsville was just different. It was a different place. You know, it's not a one-horse town. I would say it's a two-horse town. It's not a lot of hustle and bustle, but you can see like it was real country. But now it's starting to get bigger.
I honestly thought it was going to be boring because I had visited Huntsville before because my oldest sister was here, and there wasn't anything here. You know, coming from Atlanta.
I don't really participate in a lot of social things. But I did attend the homecoming events. They include the step show, like a lot of the sororities and fraternities. This is when they cross, and so you get to see them come out on the yard. There are a lot of like celebratory events on campus. I forgot, I used to be like in little plays. Socially, there was plenty to do.
If you were social.
If you were social, you could go to the club. I know they used to have like pajama parties in the gym, especially like a big dance party. It's pretty cool.
Did you stay on or off?
Off campus.
Because we lived on campus, we lived in the dorm.
Yeah.
We would always be going to the campus events.
Saturday night.
So we was always going to things like that.
We had a Saturday night activity every Saturday.
What was that? What kind of stuff?
So they would have, I know one night they had laser tag in the library. That's probably one of my favorites.
That was like one of the best.
Yes, it was probably one of my favorite because it's like the library is like a maze with all the bookcases and stuff like that. So that was one of my favorite.
When you come to Oakwood, or when you think of Oakwood, they say you're gonna find your mate here. I didn't find my mate here.
I've always heard that you go to Oakwood to find your husband, you know, and typically it was like you go down there to find a pastor.
Actually had a boyfriend from Bermuda. I still have him, by the way. But I met him at home, so.
Okay, and he didn't come?
He did come to Oakwood.
Okay.
I came into Oakwood and I knew for a fact, I was like, I'm gonna find my man here. And honestly, that's not how it turned out. And I'm okay with that because being here for so long, you can also get surrounded by, you can be influenced. So I'm not saying the population of guys have been influenced. I'm just saying that you tend to get the same energy, the same, what's that, seasoning?
So what was dating like? On and popping! Oh my gosh, my dating life thrived while I was at A&M. I couldn't take 2 steps without being hollered at, which was so nice. And for the most part, the young men who were talking to me, super polite, respectful. Like, doors used to be held for me. My books used to be carried for me. Guys used to stop buses, like, oh, wait for this young lady. I'm like, yes, come on, black men. So, and that's not to say that they were all perfect. You know, even bad guys know how to put on a good act. But I had a great time.
I remember I was told not to get involved until after the second year. And then when I went home after the second year, I was told, don't get involved until you graduate. So I'm like, what's going on? And I graduated, it's like, you need to keep going.
I remember that I was working in task force, campus safety, one of the task force. And we would always patrol the campus, especially late at night. We would usually get calls to escort young ladies back to either Wade Hall or Carter Hall because they didn't want to walk across campus at night, understandably. And we would always find ourselves, our last stop would be at Cunningham Hall. Every night, we would just sit there and mill around and chill out until 12 when we clocked out. And Steven happened to be there like a couple of the nights we were there. And we just got to talking and laughing, never thinking or looking at her then and saying that I wanted to date her or get to know her a little better. I think it just happened naturally.
So what's interesting is that your best friend,
here we go,
right, tells a different story about the summer before.
I thought you looked good. And I did see you the summer prior. My friend and I were in the mall. But I never, when I saw you, I thought you were the guy that I can't think of his name, but he was an H-cop with you. And I thought that was your boyfriend.
Well, I didn't know until our wedding day that Courtney had seen me the summer before I started college, and told his best friend at the time, Andre, that he was going to get with me. And Andre was like, nah, she's out your league, dog. And so I was asking Courtney some advice about this guy that I was talking to, and he just gave such great advice. And the moment that he started talking, I was just like, I think I like him.
Okay, I'll say this about the young men from A&M. I think young men of that age period have healthy sexual desire. There's nothing wrong with having healthy sexual desire, especially at that age. Similar to Oakwood guys, I guess, because I've had a couple of Oakwood boyfriends and what was the difference? I had so many things to work out. Because one, I was having sex and I felt guilty about having sex because I'm Christian and I'm Adventist Christian. And the guys that I'm with are not Adventist, and should I marry them? Doesn't that make me unequally yoked?
When it comes to marriage, when it comes to how you're raising your kids, stuff like that.
It's better to be equally
It's
yoked.
better, yes.
I remember distinctly a time after we got married where Courtney wasn't going to church. And I remember, and I don't even know if I've ever shared this with you, I remember me deciding, like, even though we don't go to church consistently, like, I want to be in an Adventist relationship with my husband. Like, I want us to, we knew better. You know what I mean? Like, we were raised both to go to church on Sabbath, to keep the Sabbath holy, all those things. And I remember, we would go out to eat on Friday nights and stuff. And I remember, being up watching TV, but waking up Sabbath morning saying, I'm going to ask the Lord to make sure that my husband will go to church. Like, he was stopping, he wasn't going to church consistently. And I remember praying and saying, Lord, I want you to make him get up right now and get dressed and go to church. And I remember that being maybe the first prayer that I prayed, during our marriage, where God truly answered that prayer at that very moment. I remember that day, me knowing that I didn't have to pray that anymore, that what I asked God to do that one time, he was going to just continue to make you the head of our home spiritually. We were both very equally yoked when we got married, very equally yoked whenever we were in college, but I didn't want an unequally yoked marriage.
Everybody will always say, and even people who go to Oakwood, they'll always say, we're not your average HBCU because we don't have sororities, we don't have fraternities, which are a big part of HBCUs, other HBCUs.
I did not want to pledge. I admired from afar. It was not in my interest because I'm just not that type of person. I know myself, and the girls that I saw who typically pledged for those organizations were different from me.
Do you know why we don't have that? I feel like it's something to do with our religion.
I think there's a misconception that the campus, in specific, our campus, Oakwood University, has. And I think that because we don't believe in, what is it, secret organizations? What do they call them? Secret organizations. They associate us with things like Masons and all of these different things. So they allow these things to grow in their mind of what we are.
I know hazing is a thing, and that's definitely against what we believe in general. So,
Like, you have to do silly things that are supposed to humble you, but feel more like humiliation, like, not brush your teeth for a week.
What was y'all's called? Raw dog?
I wasn't there long enough to even learn the call. I told God, I said, if you allow me to leave here tonight, I'll never go back. And I never went back.
Oh, to Line?
Yeah, because we went to Line and it was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. So they were trying, oh God.
Don't say what they were trying to do.
Are you familiar with the sapphires and gammas? And
Yes.
So how do you all feel about those?
It's not the full experience. Literally, they call them veggie frats and veggie sororities. Like, I don't know. It's just not something I would want to be a part of.
Do you feel like they add any value to the campus for people who do want a sorority or frat life?
Absolutely not. They don't add anything. Because honestly, I feel like it's still kind of... Because, you know, we know they exist, but, like, I know at some basketball games, they're not allowed to wear their jackets. So it's like we know they exist, but they're not really accepted by Oakwood. So what's the point?
The name of our sorority is Beta Alpha Theta Sorority Incorporated. We were founded on March 26, 1990, and we were founded because during that time, there were other organizations that were starting on campus, but there was the need for a strong women's organization, one that would make Christ the center of our lives, and one that would unify the student body, one that would come to mold and shape women and help girls become queens, become a strong woman who was willing to work hard and, again, maintain Christ as the center of their life.
1989, been around since 89.
The name of our organization is Gamma Psi Gamma Fraternity Incorporated. We were founded in 1989, September 26th. We have 11 founders, 11 young men who came together and felt that there was a need for something different, you know, based on their experience at Oakwood. And because of that, they were able to come together under, you know, one roof with one mindset and begin this organization that has continued to grow year after year. And we're more focused on the development of young men mentally, physically, and spiritually. We want everyone to be able to, you know, grow individually, but yet and still understand that there's power in numbers.
I decided to become a Sapphire because whenever I was on campus, my freshman year going to my sophomore year, no matter where I went, to the gym, to the caf, I mean, whatever it was, wherever it was, even in church, they would do little things on campus at the time. They always just demanded a presence. Like, there was other organizations on campus, but they just did not stand out like the Sapphires on campus at the time.
I wouldn't say that they were the most friendly bunch. But honestly, that attracted me. There was a certain level of confidence.
Okay, so the reason why I joined Gamma Psi Gamma is because the older gentlemen who were on campus that were Gammas, you know, it was the way they had a demeanor about themselves. They were always on time to class. They were never coming out looking raggedy.
One of the values that are taught is that we are family.
When my wife was pregnant with our daughter, when she went in labor, Kevin was literally the first person that showed up. It was early. I don't even think the sun was up yet.
I went on tour one New Year's. Like, I went from here by way of DC, Maryland, to New York and New Jersey, and stayed in Atlanta also in that trip. I didn't know a couple of brothers and sisters who I stayed with in DC or New York. But because I was a brother and they knew where I came from and who we are as the family, it doesn't matter.
A big thing that sets us apart from the normal, you know, fraternities and sororities is that we all literally started from the same place. We all walk the same grounds. We all have, you know, similar experiences with teachers and professors and everything. We can level, you know, when we're talking about, you know, biology and that certain teacher, Dr. Sovian Hadi and something like that, you know, we know exactly who he is, you know, how the classes went. So a lot of us, you know, we're all able to come together, like you said, even if you never met that brother or sister. Just because they know you walk the same grounds as them, you've gone through the same thing as them, like, you're automatically, boom, yeah, you know, that's my brother. He's not heavy. I can handle anything.
A lot of people think because we are based solely at Oakwood that we don't have the same benefits as the Divine Nine or even larger organizations, which is, is simply not true. We have the same networking, and I would beg to say that I think that our networking abilities may be just a little bit greater because you have a smaller group.
We went to a brother of ours' funeral in Florida, and we got up and, said our creeds, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 through 12. And the pastor of the church came and was like, wow, that was powerful. I didn't know that about you all. A lot of people don't want to take the time to ask.
Some staffers do party. But that's not because of the organization. And Gamut's party, that's not because of the organization, it's because individuals may like to party. They might like to do what they like to do. So we've dealt with the politics, we've wanted to be a part of the campus. But eventually you get disenchanted with the idea of having a desire to be a part. It's almost like if you're not careful, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, well, you think we're partiers, well then, hey.
Freshman year at UAH, the classrooms are really cold. Cold as in, like, the professors didn't really interact with you that much. They're not really concerned about you. And I didn't realize I was missing that until I got to A&M.
Having directors and VPs and even the president to just say, hey, come in my office, let's pray about this. God's gonna work it out. We don't know how, but we know he will. Like, I think that definitely leaves an impact. I think that's like Jesus at work. That's what he wants us to, how he wants us to impact each other's lives. To, everybody's gonna act on faith with you. Nobody's too big, no position is too great or too small to just simply pray with a student.
It's the family environment, the close aspect of the teachers. I know, and I'm not gonna say names, but there's a certain university that my brother attended, and he wasn't doing well in his classes, and no one knew. No one knew. Of course he did, and his teachers did, but they wouldn't tell parents. There was nothing. He wasn't put on a social probation, academic probation. Nothing was done to help him move up. It was just they got a letter, and my parents got a letter in the mail, and it said, if he can't, bring up his scores, then we have to dismiss him from the school. And I honestly don't like that university because of that. I don't care what anyone says, I just don't. Because I know that at Oakwood, if that was to ever happen to me, if a student was failing, teachers would have done something.
Whenever you drop your kids off at your auntie's house, you're not like, how is it gonna eat and will it be able to go to the bathroom? You know what I mean? It's gonna be taken care of. Somebody's gonna water it, somebody's gonna feed it, somebody's gonna nurture it, and all of those things happen.
I remember Dr. Patterson, how she poured into my life. I had an interesting experience where, it's your senior year. This is when I came back into the country. So I'm trying to get everything together to graduate. And I think I had a couple of classes left. And it's down to the wire. I had a couple of papers to write that were all due. You have final exams. And I incorrectly cited something in a paper, and I was accused of plagiarism. And the teacher was like, one of the classes that I was taking was so difficult. Most people were in that class for the second or third time. And I had maintained a B average the whole semester, which I thought was phenomenal because most people failed the class. So the teacher in the class was, I guess, lamenting in the office one day and was talking about how she had to fail one of her best students. She was referring to me. And Dr. Patterson, my other professor, who I don't even think I was in a class for her that semester, but she remembered me. She knew who I was. And she was like, asking her, well, who? And she told her. And Dr. Patterson was like, no, she wouldn't plagiarize. And like, she stood up for me, and she talked my professor into giving me the opportunity to do something to make up for the mistake that I had made. Wow. What?
What was your major? She should have failed you. She plagiarized.
I
The truth out. She did it. She plagiarized.
I did it. After all these years, I'm caught.
You know, going to college opens your mind, you know, to the world. You know, you start to think big than just your own little hood that you came from.
Because even though I went to Oakwood Elementary and Oakwood Academy, I didn't really know, like, you know, even other types of Black people, like West Indians, Africans, even Hispanics. So when I came to Oakwood College at the time, I met a lot of different people like that, and of course, where they came from sounded interesting to me. Like, their places of birth sounded amazing. So I think it did awaken an interest and a curiosity in seeing what the rest of the world was like.
It was a privilege for me to travel with some of the evangelists of the church. I traveled with Elder C.D. Brooks to 4 cities in crusade here in America. And then I traveled with a classmate of mine who was a chaplain in the Navy to Japan. Each of these, then I also went back to Australia to sing for Elder John Carter at the Sydney Opera House. We did a crusade there.
My last year here, I decided to go away to school. I decided to go to, participate in the Adventist colleges abroad. So basically you're still an Oakwood student, but you just spend a year abroad. So I went to Argentina.
I truly feel like I can go anywhere in the whole world and know somebody that was affected or affected by somebody that went to Oakwood. Like, anywhere. I will not forget my sophomore-ish junior year, I decided to go to school in France. And I'm expecting to know absolutely no one whenever I get there. And I get off the plane, and instantly I meet a guy that I went to high school with, that I also went to college with, and I'm like, hey, what's going on, Chris?
Everywhere I went after going to Oakwood, then all of a sudden, I went to Oakwood too, you know, and that's a thing about Oakwood, you know. Even going abroad, I even met some people there that have heard about Oakwood and things like that.
I feel safe in the world knowing that we're everywhere.
Yeah, Oakwood had a major role in me starting the Dinka Bible translation. I started translating the Bible in the library with a floppy disk. That became my life work, basically, and still is my life work.
Do you feel like you're missing out on anything?
Yeah.
Overall, I think I was supposed to be here, and I did come here, and I think it was one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Hello.
Hey Tyrese, this is Sophia. How are you?
I'm good.
How is school going?
It's good.
So you transferred, huh, to Southwestern?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
I just had the chance to come out here and play basketball, so I had to.
Oh, so you went out there to play basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like you made the right choice to switch?
Yes, I do. It was a better, this school was a better fit for me, I guess, and it just caused me to focus on.
Ah, okay. Are you still connected with some of the friends you made at Oakwood?
Yes, I'm talking to them every day.
Okay.
Especially my line brothers. There's like 2 or 3 of them that I'm real close with. We check each other real often, so I feel like I'm super close with them as well.
Okay.
Acorns are the fruit that fall from the oak tree. Inside every acorn is a seed that can be taken miles away from its original tree. But once it's planted, the legacy of that original tree continues. Every student that walks the grounds of Oakwood holds a seed that can be planted anywhere in this world. Whether they embrace the Oakwood culture or not, still within their tough, leather-like shell is a tiny seed that says, "Enter to learn, depart to serve." And it never goes away.
Yeah, but that's the Oakwood experience. Music, prayer, long lines, amazing church services. You know, Oakwood is a great I want my daughter to go to Oakwood just to experience that.
I finished. It's 2016 from 1976. Yay! I'm a senior. And when I say I'm a senior at 62 years old. But I made it. I pursued what I started. I wasn't going to give up. Even though there was a lot of challenges, a lot of pitfalls, a lot of obstacles, by God's grace, He pulled me through and I made it with all the children, with all the grandchildren. God is so good and wonderful.
Do you like it at Southwestern, or do you kind of miss Oakwood?
I miss Oakwood every day.
You do? Oh,
It's a whole different culture. It's a whole different culture. Now, you walk outside of Oakwood, and I don't know where you find yourself, but Oakwood has its own culture.
Man, enter to learn, depart to serve. And then you got that hump.
I don't even know it. I don't.
The lines you tell.
I'm not lying. I don't know that song. I'm saying when I say I don't know it. Yeah, see, I don't know.
Oh, Oakwood's got the hump.
I've heard it before, yes.
Oh, he's got the hump. We went to OC. I can't get it.